Back in February of 2019, Netflix pulled the plug on Punisher after 2 critically acclaimed seasons as a part of their deal with Marvel to make their own Netflix universe, which existed inside of the MCU, and after that deal fell apart. Punisher was arguably their second best show behind Daredevil, and rightfully so. Jon Bernthal's portrayal of the character is nothing short of iconic due to all the humanity he brought to the role. I would be very mad if he was recast to be brought into the MCU, so if they were to introduce this character, I would be thrilled if they brought him along to reprise his role. In this video, I would like to go over how I would introduce him into the MCU, and how I think they should handle fitting in this more of a darker character, his show was obviously very dark, and how they should fit him into the MCU's more family-friendly tone. Before I get into the video, I would just like to say that this is more or less a follow-up to my previous video where I discussed how the MCU should introduce Daredevil. The link for that video should be in the description, and I highly recommend checking that video out before this one, since I'll be mentioning a lot of the ideas I brought up, because that was very much, he's very involved in that video. I talked about him a nice amount, so you will probably be a bit lost if you haven't seen that one, but you can still watch this one, I'll explain most of it. So before I get into how I think the MCU should introduce Punisher, make sure to like and subscribe and follow DM Reviews on Twitter. Link should be in the description. Also, make sure to check out Demare Commissions in the Discord server below for great thumbnails, profile pictures, phone backgrounds, and so much more. A warning that this video will contain spoilers for Daredevil Seasons 1 through 3 and both seasons of Punisher. I discussed this in great length in the Daredevil introduction video, but I would like for the entirety of the Marvel Netflix universe to be retconned inside of the MCU. I understand that the universe was originally supposed to be in the MCU, but considering how many actors have went from that universe and now have played different characters in the MCU, and how they have been very reluctant to really acknowledge them in the MCU, and none of them showed up in Endgame or anything like that, it seems very likely that they are supposed to not be considered inside of the MCU. I'm not a fan of majority of this Netflix universe, but Punisher is definitely among the exceptions. And in this case, the benefits of being able to continue the stories of some of the characters from the Netflix universe, I believe outweigh the negatives. Although I'd understand if Marvel wanted to have a do-over with some characters, especially like Iron Fist, who was grossly mishandled and miscasted. I would be content if Marvel decided to recast certain characters like Iron Fist and Elektra, but kept some actors who fans attached to and adored, such as Charlie Cox, Kristen Ritter, Mike Coulter, David Tennant, Vincent D'Onofrio, and of course, Jon Bernthal. I would also be okay if they kept it vague as to if the Netflix shows are canon. Sometimes it can seem like Daredevil has met Punisher before, and we won't really get an origin story, but there will be certain times where it won't seem like it wasn't canon, because if they were ever meet Iron Fist, they might be a bit confused as to who he is. So they can pick and choose what's canon and what isn't, so there is a certain backstory these characters have, and it's mostly identical to the ones we've seen on the Netflix shows, with, just a few key changes, like maybe Iron Fist wasn't there. In any case, I would like for them to pick up where they left off in Punisher Season 2. Even if that season wasn't as perfect, or, in my opinion, not as good as the first one, it was still far better than most of the Marvel Netflix shows. So, it's still very much worth to keep up with it and not at all retcon anything. I think the first appearance of Frank after Season 2 should come in Daredevil Season 4. I discussed a full pitch for that season in my last Daredevil video, so make sure to check that one out. But at the end I discussed how Frank should be involved in that season. In my Daredevil Season 4, he really didn't have a natural spot, so I had a very limited role for him. In my pitch, Karen Page, who had a very close relationship with Frank, is killed at the hands of Bullseye, although he was being manipulated by Fisk once again as he was in Daredevil Season 3. I had a post-credit scene where we would see Frank visit her grave, and then the words "Frank Castle will return" appear on screen. This took place after the blip, and I think Frank should have been dusted, since it would explain why we haven't heard from him during the 5 years. I think this is the only time we should see him before Punisher Season 3, since he doesn't have as many ties to pre-existing characters as Matt Murdock does. I don't have as thorough an idea for Punisher Season 3, since I don't remember the show as much as Daredevil, since while I did enjoy it thoroughly, it didn't resonate with me the same way Daredevil did, and the way Jessica Jones Season 1 did. While I don't know exactly what I would want the story to be like, I definitely have some notes on the elements of past projects and characters I would like them to show us more of. I'm going to start off by saying I think Frank should come back to New York for the season, since he believes he has unfinished business there. There should be flashbacks at some point which show us even more of Karen and Frank's relationship, and although it was never romantic, they clearly both cared about each other deeply. Frank should have come back to New York to try to kill Bullseye to avenge Karen after Matt spared him. Once again, check out that Daredevil video if you want to know what I'm talking about, because, obviously, that is something I really discussed there. But, in any case, Frank cannot figure out which prison Dex is in. For whatever reason, it's not really public knowledge where he is because they want to keep it quiet, so he just tries to find him, and he spends like a few episodes really looking for him. Eventually he does find him, and Matt kind of comes in while he's like about to kill Dex, and he's like, he's giving this whole monologue about how he's a terrible person, he's about to kill him, and then Matt comes in and he saves Dex, and he convinces Frank to go after those who aren't in jail, those who are working for Fisk and are like doing whatever, and Fisk is running things again in New York, and he tells him that Fisk is who he has to go after, not Dex. So he convinces him to save Dex because Dex is clearly just content with living the rest of his life in jail, so there's no reason to kill him. This would really set in motion Frank's war on Fisk and crime in New York City. Not necessarily to help the average guy, like maybe Daredevil would, but more to avenge Karen, since he knows that this is what she would want him to do. But even though he knows she wouldn't want him to kill anybody, he still does it. He's still Frank Castle, and he doesn't believe in redemption, and I don't think they should take that part of his character away. The season would not need to be the usual 13 episodes they gave to a Marvel Netflix series. I think more like 9 episodes, and with like 30 to 50 minute runtimes, considering how much story you have, would be far better suited for the show. One thing that I really disliked in Punisher Season 2 was that they gave Frank a love interest. One of the things I love most about that character is that how he's just kind of so broken about losing his wife and his kids, and he's kind of like, he just accepts that he's never gonna have, nobody will ever be his wife, and that's just it, she's gone, and now he's kind of a loner. But he's accepted that, he's not looking to change that. And I think that's because he's a tragic character, and I think if you allow him to open himself up, that would kind of take away from who the character is. And that really bothered me. In Punisher, the first episode of Season 2, I believe they already established that he's open to this, and that really bothered me. So I'd really prefer that they avoid that mistake. So yeah, I think that in his entire run on the MCU, I really don't think he should ever really have a love interest. I mean, other people can be interested in him, but I don't think he should really ever be seriously interested in somebody else, because that would just feel so wrong to me, and it would be like you're betraying the character, and obviously that's something I'd really like for them to avoid. So I really hope they don't do that. So I think that the season should kind of end with him, he's committed to taking down Fisk, and then, so he does not he should have a confrontation with Fisk, but he's not able to kill him, and so Fisk is left still alive, and an end credit scene maybe could show that he's going to team up with Spider-Man and maybe also Daredevil to take him down. Daredevil and Spider-Man are both New York-based heroes, so they're both obviously trying to take down Fisk, who's obviously setting up a bunch of crime, so they're going to all kind of team up to take him down almost. I actually think this should be set up previously. In Spider-Man No Way Home, while obviously they have more villains than they can handle at the moment, so Fisk probably can't be a part of the Sinister Six or anything, which kind of bums me out, because I feel like this might be a subject for another video, but I think if they're doing a Sinister Six, I would want more original MCU villains rather than just bringing them back from the Raimi trilogy and Andrew Garfield movies. Because while they do have some great villains, I'm obviously very excited to see Alfred Molina back and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin back, but eventually I'd rather new villains from the MCU rather than just having 6 characters from older movies. I'd rather maybe have 2 or 3 from older movies than the others are from this universe. But maybe they could just introduce Wilson Fisk, because especially if Matt's in it, I feel like having not necessarily a fight scene or anything, just have reference Wilson Fisk and establish that he's currently a crime boss in New York. And then also in Hawkeye, because Hawkeye will be taking place around the criminal underworld in New York City, and also because Echo, from what I understand in the comics, Echo will be in the show, and her dad was killed by Wilson Fisk, and her dad has been casted. So maybe that her role in the show is that she has a vendetta against Wilson Fisk. Maybe even Hawkeye could be in the show, this movie, but in this Wilson Fisk takedown movie. But my guess is he wouldn't, because I think by the end of that show, he's gonna be trying to stay away from that stuff. So my guess is he won't. But that's just how they could set up that Wilson Fisk is now back and he is doing crime. So yeah, this end credit scene would set up that Spider-Man and Daredevil are going to team up with Frank Castle to take down the Kingpin. So this Kingpin movie, I don't know what you'd call it, because I don't think this is any sort of team in the comics, so you could maybe just make it the Punisher movie and then Daredevil and Spider-Man are in it, but I really want it to be a team-up, each character is equally important. So this Kingpin movie, which sees Frank, Matt Murdock, and Spider-Man go against Kingpin, who is played by Vincent D'Onofrio, that's very important, and we would actually see the fall of Fisk, this would be it for him. I mean, he could obviously, this would be different, it would be very clear he will not be the villain of a project again, he is either in jail or dead. And I think that's for the best. We've seen him be the villain so many times, and he's also he would eventually, I don't know how many movies and seasons of television he can be the villain for, so I think it'd be best if this is it for him. So after this, it's a bit I don't really know how this movie would work in terms of do you have other villains in it? I think it should just be Fisk, because I would love how you could have these characters interact with him. I think since the Daredevil series established that Wilson Fisk is still really a child, and like he's still that boy who killed his dad. And I think that Spider-Man would really be able to get this version of Spider-Man, considering how great Tom Holland is with comedic timing. I think he would really get under Fisk's skin, and that would be very interesting. And obviously, Matt Murdock has also had great, Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock is great with him. And, John Berthel's such a great actor. I'm sure he could have some great conversations with Fisk as well. So, after this movie, I kind of see Marvel as having three options. They could have them kill Fisk in that movie and make him more. They could have like Punisher kill Fisk in this movie and really make him more of an evil figure Daredevil has to take down. They could also have him become a normal, just hero, which I'd be pretty mad about because he's an anti-hero, and that would also be kind of going against who the character is. Or my personal preference, they could keep him as an anti-hero who's taking down those who have wronged him, not necessarily help out the average person just because they have wronged him, and he thinks that they don't deserve to live. Then, in this case, they could really do whatever they want with the character. He could be in Daredevil a Punisher season 4, appearances in like big crossover movies, or cameos in other movies like a Spider-Man 4, which is why this is my personal favorite, since I really think it has unlimited possibilities. Just one possibility I want to talk about before I end the video is that him meeting Deadpool would be pretty awesome. I feel like any character meeting Deadpool would be awesome, but I could see him being annoyed. I could see like Deadpool really getting under Frank's skin, and that could really bother him, and I feel like that could be really funny. And maybe they could make a sequel to this Daredevil, Punisher, Spider-Man, Deadpool crossover movie, where like Deadpool could be in it and he could join the team. That seems very far-fetched and one. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, it would be awesome, but I don't think they would do that. And also, I don't know how this would make sense in their world. Like, I don't know why these people would be fighting to take down one common enemy. So that would just be I think that would be really funny if we could get those four in a movie together. But in fairness, I feel like a lot of these characters could work with any other movie, so I'm not sure. That's just one fun team-up movie idea. I actually did talk about it in my other video. So I did not come up with a pitch, though, because don't know what you would have that movie do. But I feel like that could be really funny. So do you like my ideas for how the MCU should introduce Punisher? Make sure to comment what you think of his 2-season Netflix show and what you think of my idea for how they can introduce him. Also, comment down below if there are any other characters you would want us to do a video like this for, where we discuss how the MCU should introduce them. I think we'll be doing one for Deadpool, if I'm not mistaken. But, because obviously that is a very interesting conversation, rated R, PG-13, how in canon with the MCU should it be. So, yeah, make sure to comment if there are any other characters you want us to do that for, or even if they've announced that they're coming, like the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, if you want to know how we think they should introduce them, or maybe one specific character, like Human Torch or Wolverine, just let us know in the